Welcome everyone to today's conversation circle, racial inequity. We appreciate you joining us. Before we start the conversation circle, I'd like to acknowledge that today is George Floyd's memorial service. It's actually taking place as we have our discussion today. May he rest in peace. A name of change, a name that we have heard is going to change the world or is changing the world. So this will be the first of many conversations that we'll have at Association Forum. We are on the journey of hearing, healing, and helping. This might be a discussion that's uncomfortable for some, and we understand and respect that, but we also know sometimes through uncomfortable conversations, you can have breakthrough improvements. And you participating, we know you want to be a part of the process, the journey for change. At Association Forum, we know that racism, bias, and discrimination really has no place. We are a welcoming environment. It is our core value. It is a place where we focus on creating a sense of belonging, connectedness, and unity. We also believe that we're at a tipping point and we want to be on the right side of history. And we want to unite with you to be the change we wish to see in the world. So we are glad that you're with us today and want to be a part of this conversation. It truly will be a journey and not a sprint, and we want your voices to be heard. With that, it is my pleasure to turn the program over to Simon T. Bailey, author, writer, life coach, speaker, entrepreneur. So Simon, please take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone. And Michelle, thank you so much for this opportunity. My heart is heavy because as a Black male, I have had to have the talk with my 21-year-old son and my 18-year-old daughter. And for those of you who are not familiar with the talk, in the Black community, the talk that happens when you have a George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor type of situation, the conversation goes like this. Daniel, if you're pulled over by the police, what are you going to do? Dad, my hands will be at 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock. And I will say, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, officer. How are you, sir? Officer, I need to reach in the back of my pocket and get my license. Officer, I need to reach over to the glove compartment to get my registration and insurance. And it is this ongoing dialogue that in the 21st century, I shouldn't have to have. But why does that happen? So today is all about, as Michelle has shared, how do we hear, heal, and help? But before we can look through the windshield and finding a way forward, we have to look through the rearview mirror to understand how did we get here. Something that you may or may not know, yes, slavery was taught in American history in public schools, but one of the things that wasn't taught was that the founding fathers of America believed that Black people were savages and were 3/5 of a human being. If you were to Google, do the research, you would find this out because it determined how many people would end up in Congress from the South. So they only counted Black slaves at that time as 3/5 humans. And so understanding that America's original sin was racism, what then happens throughout the decades, you have institutionalized racism that is a system that wants to ignore as if we should be past this now.
So while we are waiting to hear back from Simon, I will turn this over to the chair of our board, Geof Brown, to deliver remarks.
Thank you, Michelle. Good afternoon, everyone. I think it goes without saying that our hearts are with the families of the victims, those who are protesting and peacefully demanding change in their honor, and the many African American and Black professionals who are part of this community and who may continually fear for their lives and face violence, brutality, discrimination, and mistreatment in this city and in this country. Now more than ever, Association Forum is committed to our focus on welcoming environment. Creating a welcoming environment is a long-standing priority for Forum that serves as a point of differentiation for this community. Because of recent events, that focus is now being put to a test. How we respond in the coming weeks and months will speak volumes about our commitment to achieving the change we've referenced so often. We have an opportunity to continue building a diverse, equitable, and inclusive community where association professionals, regardless of race, are welcomed, heard, supported, and appreciated. We should all know that it is not enough for us to simply express support. We must act. Going forward, it's important that Forum prioritize creating space for conversations about race, privilege, and racial injustice. That dialogue will be uncomfortable and challenging, but it is what we need to heal and move into the future that we know we need and that we know we deserve. Finally, I want to close by acknowledging and applauding the Black Association professionals and every member of this community who has been on the forefront of the fight for equity and justice. We see you, we thank you, and we stand in solidarity together. Hopefully Simon's back. If not, I'll turn it back to Michelle, and thank you all for participating in this important conversation and those that are to come and being a part of the action that results from this effort. Michelle?
Great. Thank you so much, Geof, and thank you for your leadership with this very important topic and during this a very important moment in our history. We love technology when it works, right? So we're at capacity as it relates to this webinar, and Simon's having a little difficulty joining us.
I'm back.
And it also might mean, oh, there he is. So Simon, take it away for us. Thank you.
Technology. Hi, everyone. Here's what I'm doing. I'm going to keep the program moving along, and then I'll save my remarks until after we hear from Alderman Rod Sawyer. I've had an opportunity, though I do not live in the Chicago area, to research Alderman Rod Sawyer, and I have been deeply and positively impacted by who he is as a statesman, as a person that is committed to his family and even more importantly, the community, but it certainly dates all the way back to his father. And so at this time, I would like to introduce someone that all of you are familiar with to hear his remarks. Please welcome Alderman Rod Sawyer.
All right, Alderman, are you on? I think we might be having a little technical difficulty. So Simon, let me address the technical difficulty. If you can continue to speak with our community, we'll be right back.
Okay, great. That's what they call in show business, stretch. All of you who put on events, you're very familiar with that. So let me just share that having a conversation with my son and daughter about what has happened in America. I'm 51 and I weep. And I'm going to do my best to hold it together today. But what I will say as I look at the protests that are happening all over America and the world, I believe that those who are protesting the right way, not the looting, not the vandalism, not all these other things that really do not commemorate the proper way we want to remember George Floyd. We're not in agreement with that. But what I will say, as I was observing in Washington, D.C., just on yesterday when thousands of people were singing "Lean on Me," And they were people from every race, every religious preference, every sexual orientation, all together because they believe that we are better than this. So the question we have to ask ourselves, Socratic method of learning, is so as we hear, how do we heal? And I posted something yesterday on Instagram and LinkedIn that healing is hearing and hearing is healing. And the reason we have to have the hard conversation is because of the racial inequality that has existed in this country. And you have a perfect storm where people have been sheltering in place, quarantined because of COVID-19. Some have been furloughed. They don't know when the other shoe is going to drop. Some have been laid off. And they're looking at, where is my piece of their American dream? And what happened to we the people? What happened to America the beautiful? What happened to the Constitution, the Bill of Rights? Where am I? And seeing a man have his very life taken, murdered in such a casual fashion as the officer had his knee on his neck. The reason that sent shockwaves beyond Minneapolis is because every Black American could relate at some level that I can't breathe because the system has its foot on my neck. As we have moved into a world of algorithms, automation, autonomous cars, people are thinking about, is there a future for me? Research from Gallup says that there are 75 million children in 5th to 12th grade. 30% of them will not finish school on time or even graduate, and 50% of them are Black Americans and Hispanic. When Gallup does the deeper research to find out why is it that students will not finish school, and you do know, by the way, that if a child is not reading where they need to be on 4th grade level, they're already building a jail. And that's an educational gap. But what Gallup says in their research, it's not as if the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is not contributing money towards education. All the foundations, they're trying to close that gap. They said the reason children drop out of school and don't finish is because they lose hope for a better future. And when they lose hope, the Gallup scientists say, when they lose hope for a better future, they drop out of life. And what you're witnessing are young people and their families looking at America and wondering, is there still hope for me? Do I still matter? I can't breathe. So there's an education issue. Then when we look at economic empowerment, people are wondering, will I get the job? Will I get the opportunity? And I know these are uncomfortable conversations, but ladies and gentlemen, this is real. This is really real. If you were to look at a study that was just released about Minneapolis, it was done by NPR, Planet Money, and it talked about that Minneapolis has one of the highest poverty rates in America. Minneapolis in 2019 said that Blacks in the Minneapolis area are 11 times more to be incarcerated than whites. In Minneapolis, if 3/4 of the population, white Americans, own homes, less than a quarter of people that are Black own homes in Minneapolis. And they went, so I can't breathe. The protest that started in Minneapolis and went around the nation. And now you just probably have heard that Another man has been shot in Louisville, Kentucky by a police officer. Granted, he fired back. We don't know the details of that. My whole point is we have come to this point, this present point, to hear, to understand, and then to say, okay, how do we the people, we the people, we the people, come together in our association community where you have members who represent corporations, organizations, and how do we the people become intentional? It's something that I've been telling CEOs who have been calling me. I think we have to start with acknowledging the emotion. I just posted something in LinkedIn today that said, just FYI, not all Black professionals that work for you are doing good right now. They're hurting. They may not say it. They will put the gang face on and show up every single day, but they're hurting. So CEOs, leaders, executives, we have to acknowledge the emotion. And the question I have for you, is your association psychologically safe for conversations, real conversations to happen? And if they are, then that psychological safety allows men and women to show up because they believe that they've been heard. So after we acknowledge the emotion, how do we then activate kindness? And activating kindness is simply coming alongside to say, what is it that I can do? I'll give you a quick example of what this looks like. Ava Vargas, a young lady that follows me on LinkedIn, posted a note. And she said, if anyone has been laid off and we used to work together, let me know how I can help you. And if there is an opening in my current company, I'm happy to refer you, connect you with the right people, and even be a sounding board to review your resume, write a letter of reference, do whatever I need to do to help you. That is a practical way to start the healing when a person is concerned and they have economic insecurity. So what else can we do to help? Let me say something to all of you who may say, I want to ask people of color, Black people, Black Americans, how are you doing? But I would caution you that you may not want to ask that question just to be asking it because it's vogue, it's the right thing to do. I would invite you to do your work first and research and understand. When a person goes through trauma and something has been buried and suppressed for such a long time, and one event triggers something in them, a person that comes to say, how are you, is kind of like a person just died and you're in our thoughts. Really? Okay. So the question is, if I am to ask, how are you? The bigger question is, what can I do to amplify my voice and speak out about racial injustice and really do something about it?
Simon, thank you so much for those poignant remarks. I just would like everyone to know that we are working aggressively for the aldermen to join us, but it might be a really good time, Simon, for us to open it up for to Q&A while we are working to secure the aldermen.
Okay, great. So do me a favor, everyone. If you would be so kind, you can put your questions in the chat, and I'm going to do my best to view those questions and answer them. What questions do you have? What's going through your mind as we think about how do we hear, heal, and help? While you're thinking of some questions, So thank you so much for this question. What do you see as the immediate steps to take now? Yeah, great question. I think in every organization, and let me just add a disclaimer, you probably have already done this, okay? But a quick virtual town hall, pull everybody together. And it's not about being scripted or being perfect or getting it right, but it's about pulling that town hall together and to let every Black American that works in your association know that you matter and we care. Give them time in that town hall to just share and let them know that this is a safe place, that we may not understand, but we're open to hearing and learning and growing from this. So the town hall, that's the first thing. The second thing I would invite you to do is, how do we continue the conversation to find out what are some of the top issues that your staff members may be facing outside of your place of business, and beginning to think about if the organization can provide beyond the employee assistance program, some other tools and help for them to engage and just have that deeper conversation. One of the things that you may or may not know in the Black community, Black people do not go to see a shrink. Black people do not go and sit on the sofa to talk to anybody about, here's what's going on. And if you really want to be of help, perhaps having maybe on retainer a psychiatrist, psychologist, someone that they can call and talk to. And not just, let me just say this, in the spirit of the time that we're in, also for those who've gone through COVID-19, because trauma, there's a lot going on. There's an emotional tsunami that has taken place, and we got to be sensitive to that. Would the town hall make sense for association members? Absolutely. To bring the association community together, I think you certainly, Geof is a most effective chairman, and bring that together. Perhaps have questions sent in advance, and put together a panel of individuals from the association community that could weigh in and give some answers as to how they're doing, what they're doing, and a way forward. So absolutely. One of the things, EAP programs on benefit plans offer those resources. All right. What's on my mind is how to encourage my friends and family to maintain this activism and motivations. My friends and I are protesting, reading,
Simon,
donating. Yes.
I have good news. The alderman is on.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll come back to the questions. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are so honored to have Alderman Roderick Sawyer with us. Alderman, I have read and researched you, and you are a statesman. You are the pride of Chicago. You are certainly fulfilling an amazing legacy from your father, and we certainly cannot wait to hear what you have to share. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Alderman Roderick Sawyer.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And thanks everyone on the call for allowing me to speak for a few minutes today. And a couple of things. I saw that and I want to thank particularly Brian Bernardoni, who's a longtime friend of the family, for allowing me to give me an opportunity to speak today. But I have to say something, and I hope you all don't take this in the wrong way. And I just got off a call. I chair a committee, a health committee, and today we had the issue of reparations up today, which I know is a hot topic for some, but it's something that's immensely present, particularly of the events that have been happening right now. And I looked at what Brian sent me as this is a conversation on racial inequity and inequality. And I wanted to make a friendly amendment because, we're trying to avoid the word inequality and talk more about inequities as we're talking about, particularly about Black people. Let's be honest. And it's that old adage, if we start if all things being equal and we're all started at the same line, then the race is equal. We need equitable transformation in the city of Chicago and all over the country right now. Because right now, and as a Black man, I think you can appreciate this, we're not starting on the same starting line. We have things like health disparities, unjust incarcerations, you name it, everything that's bad is happening to Black people more than it is to anybody else. And everything good, we're last. So when you're talking about a starting line, everybody else has got a 20-yard head start on Black people, and we have to run the same race. Same thing with education. How is someone going to learn when they have to wake up in the morning worried about whether they're going to eat or not? How are they going to learn if their parents were beating them or did not come home because they were on a binge with drugs or alcohol? This is the things that we have to deal with, that I have to deal with on a daily basis. For example, when I talk to my principals on a monthly basis to see how the schools are going and why aren't our scores up to par with the scores in other parts of the city. And they tell us these stories, how children come to school unwashed, dirty, how they come to school hungry, how they come to school traumatized because they saw someone shot last night. These are the things where we need help and engagement with groups like yours. Philanthropic. We cannot do a lot of the work that's done on the ground without them. But sometimes, a lot of people may not hear what the typical days are in the inner city. And I'm not just talking about places that are hard pressed. I'm talking about that are doing okay. I have great neighborhoods and I have great schools in my neighborhood, and I have struggling neighborhoods and struggling schools. Might be less than a mile away. So, dealing with the disparities that we're dealing with, we need engagement and we need help. So I was hoping that, I hate to be jumping on you like this, but it seemed like a good opportunity to talk to a group of individuals that have good hearts and maybe some resources that we can dedicate to get to the least of these that are in our neighborhoods that are truly struggling. As you know, we've had riots all over the country, and here in Chicago, we were not immune. But one of the things that are immediate, now, I don't know who all is on the call, but maybe through all the CEOs that are here, maybe you can contact those that are in the pharmaceutical industry, for example. And our neighborhoods, in our respective neighborhoods, they hit almost all of our drugstores, CVS, Walgreens, etc. We have seniors that cannot get their medication right now. That's a present situation. People with high blood pressure, like myself, I only have 3 pills left. I don't know, I'll be okay. I'll find a way to get my medication. But there are those that are in the neighborhoods that are right in my neighborhood that don't have that luxury, don't have access to transportation, and they rely upon being able to get around the corner to the neighborhood drugstore to get their important medications, far more serious ailments than I have. So I don't know if we're just going back. I don't want you to just keep talking, but I love to have engagement and conversation. But these are just some of the things that we need direct help with. Having connections with an esteemed group like yourselves, I think is important. Also to hear what we're dealing with as everyday people with struggles that I have to deal with every day, people calling us, asking us to help. And truly, I do not have a cape. I do not have superpowers, super skills, but I do have the commitment to want to help. And I was glad to be connected with a good group of people like yourselves to maybe help me find answers on how we can help more people, not just here in my ward, in the city of Chicago, and honestly throughout the country, particularly those that are in afflicted communities, those of color in particular, Black and brown people that are experiencing real life everyday struggles.
Alderman Wild, thank you. We're going to open up and ask for questions from the community. But I'm just curious, Alderman Sawyer, what else can we do? What else are some direct, specific things? You've already mentioned getting medication to the elderly. What other are some specific needs that need to come to the community to have an impact?
Oh, our grocery stores are closed. I mean, they ransacked all our grocery stores, all of our medical facilities. Uh, these are just some of the present things that are happening today. This is just the problem of the day. But long term, uh, let's be honest, some type of engagement, economic opportunity, training, getting people access to different jobs that are just not blue collar jobs, which are not bad. I'm not saying they're bad jobs, but giving people the options to have the ability and skill set to do more things. We're looking for people that can provide an option or a way going forward, whether it be in coding, whether it be in human relations, whatever the vast majority of what you do collectively can bring in people that can get started on a career path. That's really what I try to get people involved in, not just a job. That, McDonald's is a great first job. It should not be your career job unless you're really going through the McDonald's university system and really moving your way through that process. I've had people come to me and I've been harsh, and I don't know if this is a way we can have some really honest, harsh conversation. Well, I had a person come to me and said, I've been working for McDonald's for 10 years, doing fries. And I was like, why? You haven't tried to move through the system? I know McDonald's has college programs and programs to advance. Have you ever taken advantage of those? So I'm looking for that type of engagement and that type of help amongst as many people as I can to allow my constituents to have that track forward.
And Alderman Sawyer, would you say that of this community, you are looking for people to have a hand up, not a handout?
Absolutely correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And I think that's very clear. And one of the key takeaways is a hand up so that they can be relevant for where the economy is going.
Right.
I want to ask the community, and certainly you can post it in the chat, or we want to hear, what is it that the community can do to help affect change in health? We have 205 plus people that registered, and we want to know, what can you do to help, to be a part of the solution?
I mean, there's something as simple as, simple things that don't cost any money, to planting gardens, coming out and visiting us, for example. I mean, I would love to take people on tours of communities, not just mine, but a lot of my colleagues, and so drive around and take a look. And maybe that way you can probably I can give you a better response by you looking at seeing what's there and seeing what's lacking. And you can see, wow, you can, how we can say get in, fit in to get in, see your way and see what's going on. I mean, I have areas that are beautiful, that are nice, well kept and well maintained. I have areas that are devastating. To you, when I first got some of my areas, I started crying. I went home and I just didn't know what to do. But I remembered my sister always telling me this, my big sister telling me this story, how do you eat an elephant? It's just one bite at a time. So you just have to constantly go at it and dig and keep grinding until we can get what we want to get. So I don't always have the complete answer, but I think a better way, I can show you better than I can tell you.
Alderman
So
Sawyer,
I propose a field trip.
Awesome. Alderman Sawyer, one of the questions we have is, where do you find the individuals who are unemployed with specific skills? If people want to help them that are on this Zoom call, where can they begin to find those individuals who are unemployed with specific skills?
For example, we have a committee. It's a Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership. It's a combination of the city and the county here. They do training, and they all are always looking for assistance from the corporate community. They do all the training. They'll get people ready, job ready, and job specific ready. They'll can even tailor programs for your specific needs and get them ready to enter into a career in a specific workforce environment. So Karen Norrington Reeves is the chair of that. She's a wonderful person. I don't know if anyone is familiar with her, but she is somebody that I can connect you with that will provide you the resources for training. And maybe that you all have specific training modules that you might have to adhere to, or you want to have implemented. They can work with those, get the people trained up so that, and they get federal and state and federal funding for that. And they even are in a position in certain instances to pay people as they train. So that you have people ready to go hitting the ground running in your respective organizations on entry-level jobs, but jobs that have a career path, moving upward.
One of the questions that came through is, my friends and family are protesting, reading, donating, and we want to continue the energy. How do we maintain this activism and motivation?
I think that, my children are doing the same. My children are activists. They have been on the ground since Laquan McDonald, and my children are only 26 and 19. So they've been around actively participating in peaceful protests. I worry about them constantly, but as an elected official, and as a former activist myself, I appreciate what they're doing and I respect and support them. What we need to do is find a path where we can get young people involved in organized activism. They're mad, and I want to take that anger and transfer it into something positive. And I'm glad that they're angry. They should be angry because what's going on is worthy of anger. I'm angry. But how do we channel that energy to something positive? How do we establish networks or programs where they can get involved with, and maybe you can help collectively finding ways. And like I said, I'm not going to even sit here and say I have all the answers. I do not. If I did, I would be probably where you are. But I want to make sure that we can work with people on the ground. And again, I cannot always give you the right answer. I think I can lead you in the right direction. I can put you together with people that are frustrated, that are young, that are engaged, that are ready to turn the switch on. But we have to have them find a landing place where they can do good work, they can do significant work, and also those that need jobs and career advice, we can be there waiting for them as well. So I don't know if we can have something done all at once that can do all of those things. I don't know, but these are just some of the things that we need to engage these individuals. I don't want to say that just throwing money at them is going to be the end all be all. And, it may make some feel better. Hey, I threw some money there. I supported the NAACP. I supported Black Lives Matter, which are great. I'm not saying anything about all of these organizations. They're great organizations. But I think what you're looking for is more direct, impactful change on the ground level. And I think that's where we have to start. But we have to start by listening sessions. We have to bring in young people and just kind of hear what their frustrations are. And maybe then we can have a better idea of how we can help them on a granular level. And they can really say that, the corporate America is behind them. Because right now they consider all of us their enemy. And I try to tell young people, I feel the same way that you do about it. I just go about acting differently than you go about reacting. Let's try to find a way that we can all do something that's positive, that's aggressive, but that's good, that will bring a change about. I hate to sound, redundant talking to people. Something as simple as voting. It doesn't cost anything. It's free. And we still don't do it to a level that we should.
I see questions in the chat. Thank you. Another question for you, sir, is education is among the great equalizer. How can associations use their educational platforms to push more education opportunities to people that need support and help?
Well, like I stated earlier, we have to work on educational equity. Again, making sure that we can at least I think all things being equal, Black people can do just as well as anybody else, maybe even better, because we've gone through a struggle. But if you wake up in the morning and your stomach is rumbling, or you got issues that you have to take care of your two younger brothers and sisters, because no one's present in the household, get everyone to school, and you're expected to learn at the same level as someone in Lincoln Park or someone in Uptown is nonsensical. It just can't happen. We have to find out ways where we can get people on the same playing field, the same level field, so that they have every opportunity to succeed. If we can find groups that can help us with that, I can connect you with a group of principals and administrators and teachers that would love to give suggestions and input about how we can make that happen. Because again, I think that when I do have schools where people are, and I do have areas that are solidly middle class. I have one of the top 5 elementary schools in the city in one of my neighborhoods. I also have one of the worst, maybe a mile or so away. That's not right. How do we correct that? And I think that's where we need most of our help. And I agree with you. Education is a great equalizer. I was a beneficiary of having 2 parents that graduated from college that did a lot of work and they're active in the community. My mom went to teach. Both my parents were teachers originally, and they allowed me to go to school and become a lawyer. And but I went the other way and went back to the community to help out and do what I can. But I was given that opportunity. A lot of constituents in my neighborhood don't have that opportunity. We need to help them get any and all resources to get them to that point where they can learn as well as anyone else. They don't have all those other options that are on their back. They can just focus on learning. We'll all do the same. We'll all do great.
Another question, and before I give you the question, I hope everyone is seeing what your chairman, Geof, has just posted in the chat. The board of directors approved creating an internship aimed at introducing students, especially those from underrepresented communities, to the association industry. And he encourages you to think about your association's capacity to support this effort when it is launched, okay?
That's wonderful. That is super.
Yeah, that's Geof Brown. Thank you, Geof, for posting that. Mm-hmm. Do you have any strategies to approaching the both sides-ism that we sometimes see from others when we have conversations on these issues? Strategies for approaching the both sides-ism that we sometimes see from others when we have conversation on these issues.
Well, I think one is the ability to listen. Don't come in with any preconceived notions. Like I said, I just got off a call. I have a good colleague of mine, as we talk about reparations. I'll go back to that for a second. And I love this guy, but he doesn't get the reparations conversation. He's white from the Northwest Side. We're friends. We talk all the time. We talk almost every day. But he said, Rod, why do you want reparations? I said, reparations is not for me personally. It's for descendants of enslaved Africans. I want to get you to listen to how it's important for everyone. As an old person used to tell me, a rising tide floats all boats. We all do better when we all do better. So once we get people to listen and understand why these things are important for the vast majority of individuals, I think that we can come kind of fight that ism that you're talking about, trying to find a way from on the side where you want to be, people want to be helpful. And, financially, they're able to do some things. But at the same time, I think people want to see people in action. You know, they want to see people doing something sometimes as opposed to just writing a check. You know, that's why I was always pleased to see came out. It's good. But my challenge was, I have organizations, for example, like yours. They'll come out and they'll come and look at an area. They'll come with all the resources for the day, and they'll clean it up. They'll fix it. They'll beautify it, and they leave. And then the problem I have with is there had been no engagement with the neighbors there to tell them how to maintain it. So 2 weeks from then, it looks raggedy and it's horrible. And then I have to go out and use resources to try to clean it up the best way I can. And it's a well-intentioned effort, but it's no sustainable effect. So I want to find something that is more sustainable when we do things like this, not just leave it to where it is and be gone to the next issue. Let's get embedded in there. Let's find out what's really going on in that particular neighborhood, for example, and let's raise some people up. You know, let's get them engaged on how they can keep their communities clean on their own, for example, keep that lot beautiful. And at the same time, hey, what are you doing employment-wise? Where are you working? You know, what's your skill set? Oh, I can help you with that. Here's my card. Call me tomorrow, and we're going to get you into a program, or like the program you just mentioned previously, which is a great thing, which I think is beautiful. But, you know, it's just like the tree falling in the forest. If no one, you know, better hear it, didn't make a sound.
Wow. Wow. What other questions do you have? We have about 10 minutes, and we have the alderman here. What other questions do you have? Please put them in the chat, and I will do my best to make sure I ask the question. What are the ways, so I feel woefully ill-equipped to understand all the issues impacting the Black community and my Black colleagues. What are the ways those of us who feel this way can get better on this? I'm committing myself to do better, which is part of the reason why I'm on this call.
And I thank that person for that question. Again, I think that goes back to maybe paying a visit to some impacted neighborhoods. Let me take you around to some neighborhoods on the south and west side. And then I think once you see it for yourself, and I want you to see the good and the bad. I don't want you just to see the bad. I want you to see the areas that are doing well. You have areas that are doing well that we have. People don't believe it. And I say this to people, for example, I have meetings with different groups of business owners. And I'll be honest with you, one of the groups are liquor store owners. And I'll tell them in a heartbeat, I'll say, you know what, I'm not anti-liquor. I enjoy a good bourbon as well as the next person. But what I will tell them is some of your stores, if you don't mind, I might get a little, you know, I might say something that might be a little bit offensive. I hope I don't offend anyone. But some of your stores look a little shitty. They're not in good shape. Would you want your wife or your friends to go into this store if it was you in your neighborhood? You know, the stores, you know, and I tell people, the reason that you get the clientele that you get is because you offer up the products that you offer up. If you're going to sell crap, you're going to get crap clients. If you sell cheap liquor, you're going to get those that come in and want to buy cheap liquor. I have a guy that I talked to him about 20 years ago about this. He's a young liquor store owner, and we've been friends over 20 years, well before I became alderman. He used to be, you know, he inherited a store from his family, and it was a horrible store. And I would tell, but he was a stylish guy, young guy, and we grew up to be friends. And I said, just imagine you. What if the store was like you? You know, you wear sharp clothes, make your store nicer, upgrade your material of the product that you sell. You'll do better. And now he has one of the nicest liquor stores in our community. He called it the liquor boutique. You know, he has wine tastings. His store is better, as good as any Benny's or any of the franchise stores that are out there. So what I'm saying to that is that those that did offer the lower product, they got the people that were struggling to put together $2 to go buy a drink. And on the same block where the store is, there are people that make $100,000 a year plus, and they would never go into that store. They'd rather drive to Hyde Park and go to Penny's or go to Walgreens and pay a premium. But if we're not attracting what's there, and then we're going to, and the problem is we're going to lose those people that are making $100,000 plus a year in our neighborhoods, and then we're going to be all that's left are people that are, engulfed in poverty. So we have to accommodate those that are doing well and provide support mechanisms. They just want to see that people are interested. They don't really need anything, but they want to make sure that their neighbors who may can get that leg up. So that's why I say it's worth a visit to come to a Black neighborhood and see the variety that's here. See the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think you can make a better presentation from that point, as opposed to me just telling you what's good or bad.
Alderman, two more questions. One question is, as a white person, I'm afraid of looking like a white savior. I want to help the cause, and I do fight for equality and protest, but I'm sometimes afraid and embarrassed that my support comes off the wrong way. What can white people read and do to ensure we are helping in the right ways?
I think, and that's a great question. And I have friends of mine who happen to be white that are doing well. And what I do is I bring them, it's funny, I have a lot, numerous friends. I grew up in white schools, and so I have most of my friends, I have as many white friends as I do Black friends. So what I always try to do, and even back when I was younger, I invite them to my neighborhood. Come have lunch with me. Come have a drink with me. Come interact with some of my friends on the South Side. And no agenda, no preconceived notion. Just imagine that you're sitting in your neighborhood, hair down, relax for a minute, and engage in a conversation with people that you may not have engaged in conversation with before. I think that way you'll learn a lot, and you'll find out that we're not that much different. There's not a whole lot of difference between us outside of maybe our economic circumstance. But I think that once you do that, you can have a pretty good opinion, not coming to be judgmental, just to come, I'll tell you what, just come and have a good time, to enjoy yourself. I think I can provide you with some fun, but actually I can provide you with an education that you may not realize that you're getting just by engaging with conversation with truck drivers and construction workers or unemployed individuals, bartenders, just the regular working class stiff that wants to be able to come home safely and play with their children and enjoy the American way of life like everyone else. I think if you did that, stay away from the judgment and just see people for what they are and provide help without trying to be not the poor Black person that what can we do to help? We're a proud people, and we're loving people. We're engaging people, and we're forgiving people. But at the same time, if we don't engage and don't connect, you're going to continue to have the same fear or stereotype in your mind that you see on television. And we are not a monolith. We have wide variety of educational backgrounds. I have doctors that live on my block. I have unemployed people that live on my block. I have daycare operators. I have retired people, teachers, you name it. We have the amount, but we all want a safe neighborhood, just like you do. We want good schools, just like you do. We want to be able to go in and out of our houses without being accosted. I mean, our basic needs are no different than yours. So I think once you see it on that level, I think you can be more appreciative of some of the disparities that we face. And even in our disparity, we still try to rise and thrive, and we try to do better. And I think that's what I would like people to see.
Awesome. Thank you, Alderman Sawyer. We so appreciate your time, your comments, your feedback. Thank you for all the great work that you do.
No, and I thank you all for listening to me, and thank you for whatever help that you can provide. And I hope that you take me up on an invitation to come out and visit our neighborhoods, and I can arrange something through our Black Caucus, through our chair, Jason Irvin. We can maybe take a little tour of the south and west sides, and we can see some great areas that you didn't think existed in our neighborhoods, but at the same time, you'll see some of the challenges that we face as well.
Thank you, sir. I turn it now over to Paul Pomerantz for closing remarks.
Thank you.
Paul, do you mind if I jump in real quick? So everyone, the Alderman issued a challenge to us to help out with the recovery and communities on the south and west sides that were damaged by the riots. In April, this community raised about $10,000 for frontline workers responding to the COVID-19 crisis. I know we all hate this when our volunteers do it, but I sent Michelle a text and said, we need to do the same to help with the recovery. So be on the lookout for a request to respond with money and resources to help out on the south and west sides.
Great. And can you hear me now? I think I'm genuinely off mute. Thank you so much. And thank you, Alderman Sawyer. That was great. And thank you, Mr. Bailey. These were really great conversations. I feel like this is a start of a dialogue, not the end, the beginning of a journey that we have together. I want to share a couple personal observations, but Alderman, before we lose you, I want to take you up on your invitation. And so we'll find a way to do that through the forum or on my own. I really want to be part of that dialogue. In terms of the forum, I want to mention that there are a couple things. One, we started a conversation that's very rich. I think we're going to want to see this continue. So Michelle texted me and said there will be a part 2. We'll make sure that happens. We had a few technological glitches too, but I think the important thing is we have an opportunity to build on the conversation. The other thing is terms of a call to action. I know you have a lot of ideas. I'm watching the chat. We want to hear from you, and so please email us. Please email the membership department with your ideas and suggestions. I do want to just share some personal reflection here. Just take a couple minutes, if you'll indulge me. I'm impressed and overwhelmed by the participation today, and I really, really thank all of you for being part of this discussion. I have been moved by the events of the last week and realized, I just don't have words. As a white male, a leader of an organization and a community of professionals, I realize I have a responsibility and I have work to do. This week has changed me, and the words that I'm hearing are powerful. Yesterday, Michelle shared a communication. It was entitled, "Let's All Breathe." I love the title. I am learning if one citizen or group of citizens can't breathe, none of us can. If one group feels threatened and unsafe, we all feel threatened and unsafe. If the American dream doesn't exist for all of us, it exists for none of us. I know I have a long way to go and a responsibility to create a welcoming and inclusive environment in my work and in my community. I am proud of the forum's work in this regard. I think we could all play a role in this journey, and I'm looking forward to working with each and every one on this call and the larger forum community. We need to help each other. One step we could do is to join the virtual Welcoming Environment Summit on July 22, but this has really been a great day and a great start. So thank you again, Simon, and thank you, Alderman. Simon, back to you for closing remarks.
Thank you so much. Listen, this has been recorded. We ask that when Association Forum sends out this link, please share it in your association. Let them listen to the feedback from Alderman Sawyer and from Paul and Geof and Michelle and all the things that we're doing. We so appreciate you. This is not an end. This is just a beginning. Remember, Association Forum, as we ignite the restart, we are here to hear, heal, and help. We have 104 years of history. We are the very best, and we intend to lead the way. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Have
Thank
a
you.
great rest of your day.
Thank you very much.